adopt a heritage scheme of the government, a public-private partnership to encourage big corporates and private players also doing their bit to preserve and conserve the heritage of India, has created somewhat of a storm. This after it was revealed that a private corporation would be adopting the Red Fort for a period of 5 years. To talk about what the government is thinking and what this Adopt a Heritage scheme actually means, we're joined now by the Tourism Minister, KG Alphonse. Mr. Alphonse, no right-thinking person can actually object to a public-private partnership per se. But when it comes to the Red Fort, which many people agree, or I think everybody agrees, is a symbol of India itself, there are definitely concerns. Some people have headlined this as the Red Fort is being leased out to Dalmia Bharat. The Red Fort is being sold. The Red Fort is going to be taken over by, you know, these profit-seeking companies. First, can you set at ease the fears that a private company gets control, because that's the perception, that a private company is going to get control of the Red Fort?
Barkha, the Red Fort or any monument or heritage building in this country is not going to be sold. It's not going to be leased out. It's not going to be owned by anybody. In fact, at the Red Fort, the Dalmias,
yes,
who have now adopted that heritage building, is not allowed to go into the building at all, into the monument at all.
They have no access to the main monuments?
They have no access to the main monument. They will not touch the main monument. They will not do any restoration, any modification of the monument at all. So, all these news which has come out in the past few days is complete fake news.
It's fake news.
It's fake news. I mean, this is not the truth. What has been done is, look at India, 5,000 years of civilization. We have thousands and thousands of monuments, including the Red Fort. They are stinking. They are dirty. There are no basic amenities. I mean, they are filthy. There is no garbage collection. There is no drinking water. There are no chairs to sit down. You won't get a coffee there. You don't have a Wi-Fi there. Yeah. It's all in a huge mess. I was in Agra today. Yeah. Everything is in a huge mess. And mind you, we are now an independent country for 70 years. We haven't done it. We said, let the government do it. Now, this whole concept which we are now trying to bring out is that the people should own up the heritage. Everybody should say, wow, Red Fort is mine. That Qutub Minar is mine. This little monument around the corner is mine. There must be a sense of ownership by the citizen, and this is exactly what we are trying to do.
But it is because people feel that Red Fort belongs to all, that Taj Mahal belongs to all Indians, that Qutub Minar belongs to all Indians, and I can continue to name our heritage sites, and we all feel they belong to all Indians, is why people feel that they have a stake in knowing what will happen to them. And the concern has also been, now you've given a very important clarification, you've said there will be no access to restoration or repair. That will continue to be the domain of experts at the Archaeological Survey of India?
Absolutely. Only the ASI and the landowning, the agency which owns the heritage, only they would have access to the main building, and only they would do the restoration, any kind of maintenance. Everything would be done only by the landowning agency, the heritage owning agency, in this case the ASI.
Yes. So, there's another question that arises, and that is of signage, of how commercial, in a sense, this space is going to get. And now you know that when it comes to heritage, one is, of course, preserving what is there. Second is repairing it. That you've said the private players have nothing to do with. But there is also a fear of rank commercialization. For example, nobody really wants to walk into the holy ramparts of the Red Fort or the Taj Mahal and see giant promotional banners, for example, of any company. It could be company B. Why only focus on the Dalmias? So how do you give us this assurance that there will not be crass promotion which will take away from the aesthetics of the space?
See, the memorandum of understanding, which is now with you, it's in the public domain. It's in the public domain.
Yes.
You read that.
That's the other thing I was going to ask, that, could you not have put the memorandum of understanding in the public domain for everybody?
Well, it could have been there earlier, but it's been uploaded today.
Okay.
And the moment I came back from Agra, I said, upload it.
Okay.
It's everybody's document.
Okay.
Now, it's very clearly laid down. Signages. I said it will be put up only with the permission and the design, everything with the permission of the Archaeological Survey of India. And you know how the bureaucrats at the ASI are. You want to get a centimeter, you got to possibly fight with them for 10 years to get that 1 centimeter.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I saw newspaper reports saying Red Fort is going to be renamed as Dalmia Fort.
Yes.
I mean, what kind of fake news is being printed out here? without checking up with us, without checking up with the ASI, this Red Fort will continue to be India's Red Fort, people's Red Fort. What is going to be done is, under the CSR, which has been now permissible, they are allowed to spend on heritage sites and for their improvement. They are going to create the peripheral facilities, which is going to make things so much easier. Number one, I think the main problem in India is cleanliness.
Yes.
Now, after the Modi government came into power, I mean, there's been such a tremendous change in attitudes. Now, even a small school kid doesn't throw the chocolate wrapper anyway. But of course, the older men and the grown-ups still keep throwing papers around and rubbish around. All these monuments are filthy, dirty. We need somebody who will continuously, from morning till night, night till morning, who will ensure that it's kept clean. Don't people need drinking water? Don't people need toilets? You go to one monument and you tell me, show me anywhere in India which we can say, wow, this toilet is standard.
No, I don't disagree, but I think your clarification on the signages is very important. You're saying it's not a quid pro quo that a company gives 5 crores over 5 years and in return it gets the right to determine where its banners will be plastered across. No. That decision can only be taken by the Archaeological Survey of India.
Yes,
where the signages come in what form, how big they can be and where they can be.
Absolutely. This will be decided by the Archaeological Survey of India, and mind you, above that there is a vision committee which will decide, which is co-chaired by the Secretary Culture as well as by the Secretary Tourism, and there are members in that, members of the Archaeological Survey of India, DG Archaeological Survey of India. They will all sit together and determine how many centimeters or millimeters of board advertising space they can put in. And you know how the ASI is, you know how the bureaucrats are. You think they will allow 1 centimeter more than what they ever think would be appropriate?
So, two really important things I think that the public had questions about, and one is the absolute categorical submission by you that private players have no access to the restoration or the repair work to the main monuments in that sense, and two, any signages or branding, because for the private players this is a branding exercise, can only be determined under the jurisdiction of the ASI.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's come to another point. The cynics say that, look, for the private players this is a branding exercise. Fine, private players have a right to that. They're giving it from their CSR budgets, which means there are tax benefits for them. 5 crores over 5 years, which is the amount, for example, that is coming into the Red Fort. There are historians like Suhail Hashmi who argued in the Indian Express that if foreign tourists, about 333 foreign tourists, were to pay 500 rupees, for every visit over 300 days, this would give you 5 crores a year. This is the submission he's given, that, this is too much to a private player for too little money. And you could, in fact, raise this money yourself.
See, Barkha, all this is fine. You can do beautiful writing on how theoretically all this is possible. You go to any of these monuments, what is the practical situation on the ground? I keep going to all these places. People keep going to all these. I don't think these historians and all these, famous journalists keep going to all these places.
No, I mean, Suhail Hashmi has done, he does heritage walks, so he knows what he's speaking about.
Fine. Now, I mean, does he make out that after 70 years after independence, various governments ruling India, I mean, especially one party was in power for most of the time, they made all their efforts, with the bureaucracy and ASI making all their effort, not one monument in India today is visitable. I mean, it's stinking dirty. We have experimented with various things.
Not one monument is visitable? That's a very strong statement for the tourism minister of the country to make.
Yes, I was at the Taj yesterday.
Yeah, and?
I mean, the Taj inside the monument is fine, but just go outside. My God, I mean, it's terrible. Things are bad. I mean, this is not how a global standard should be. I mean, they are not at all. I mean, I keep traveling. I keep going to all these museums.
What was your experience at the Taj?
My experience on the Taj is...
you were there yesterday, you said. So what was your experience?
I mean, it's bad. I mean...
And when you say it's bad, you mean the facilities?
See, the facilities are bad. I mean, it's dirty, it is stinking, it's everything around the Taj is bad. I mean, you need tremendous amount of upkeep of the place. You need better toilet, better ticketing, better queuing facilities, better X-ray. There's just one X-ray through which everything goes through. I mean, you name it. I mean, Wi-Fi, coffee shops, cafeteria, you name it, and everything is wrong. And mind you, this is the jewel in our crown. You take any monument, it's all defaced and in a bad shape, and this is how we want to say this is our heritage, 5,000 years of heritage about which I can be proud of. I'm sorry, not one kid will look at these monuments and say, after experiencing what they go through, wow, I'm very proud of this. So much decide to be done on these things.
So then you're saying it's not just about raising the additional 5 crores, it's also about the management and the attitude and the mindset. And in some ways, you need the private sector's mindset in managing the peripheral facilities.
See, we need a complete mindset in which people will own it up. Somebody who will say, yes, I'm very, very proud to create a world-class facility at the center and I will do it at my own cost. We need somebody who can believe that. See, that's the kind of people whom we want them to come forward and say, let's do it for the love of the country. And this is something which needs to be done. And in any case, we have the money and we are allowed to use it under the CSR. So let's use it and then really ensure that these monuments are beautiful. Ultimately, Barkha, we can keep on saying we are a 5,000-year-old civilization. If we don't care to keep them, at least provide a basic facility. I'm not saying world standard, absolutely top standard. Of course, that's what I would expect if I want foreign tourists and people who, to come and see it. But at least can we have the basic facilities created here?
But talking about money, there are other historians who have argued that the Red Fort itself raises about 20 lakhs, at least till 2 years ago it did every year. But then that money comes to your ministry. The ministry then decides the allocation, and according to some reports, it gets only about, some paltry amount of that money that it raises every year. Now, I beg your pardon, I should correct that. According to reports, the Red Fort itself raises a revenue of 20 crores per year, not 20 lakhs, and it gets only an allocation of 50 lakhs from the ministry. So historians have argued, why not just increase the allocation?
See, we can't just argue and say that, this is what we generate, so I must get a quid pro quo exactly the amount for maintenance of this monument. It's a very good thing if we can do that.
Yeah.
I would be very happy if it can be done. But you see, the Road Transport Ministry under Mr. Gadkariji, under the honorable direction of the Prime Minister, he's spending 15 lakh crores on construction of roads. Yeah. Where is the money going to come from? Like, take for example my ministry. Only from the foreign tourists last year, I got $27 billion, which is 1,80,000 crores. Now, can I, as a minister, tell the finance minister and the prime minister, say, look here, I'm generating 1,80,000 crores. I need to get all that money into budget. Now, that is not possible because we need to create basic infrastructure for the poor people. We need to build toilets, houses, and provide electricity. All this money comes from various sources. We need to pull them together and use it on priority, which is what this government is doing.
So, in a way, you're saying that the Red Fort may be generating 20 crores a year, but not all monuments do. And you can't have this very transactional quid pro quo that every monument gets to keep the revenue it raises, because there are so many heritage sites, in a sense, to preserve. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, exactly.
And that the ministry doesn't have that kind of funding.
Obviously not.
Or those kind of budgets.
There are thousands and thousands of monuments in this country which are dating back to, thousands of years back. But even take, for example, something like Khajuraho.
Yeah.
I'm completely in love with Khajuraho. I visited Khajuraho just 2 months back after 40 years.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this anywhere in the world.
It's gorgeous.
But it's gorgeous, amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine how somebody could have imagined a concept like Khajuraho. You know how many visitors come there? 60,000.
That's it?
That's it, Barkha. I mean, I should be getting 6 million people at Khajuraho. Why is that? There are no basic facilities. There is nothing there. There is an airport there. There is a railway station is there. Beautiful hotels are there because it is in such a bad shape, the surroundings. The monument is in fantastic shape even now. Fortunately, mind you, built in the 8th to 9th to 11th century.
So when you say that no monument in India today is visitable, what you're talking about is not the monument but the facilities around the monument.
Well, two things. I mean, the monument also in a lot of cases, because the ASI has got thousands and thousands of monuments to be maintained, to be restored, they are not able to do it because they don't have the money to. I mean, they would need lakhs of crores of really to do it. And so the fact is that they also don't have the kind of money which they need for restoration of most of these monuments. But of course, Khajuraho is a separate kind of example where the monument is still absolutely intact, but the surroundings are in a horrible shape. I mean, there are no toilet, there is no entry, there is no parking, there is no cafeteria, there is nothing. And these things, Barkha, can be created. If somebody who loves that monument says, okay, I'm here for the love of it, my own money I will spend. We don't need any money from the government and we are going to look after this for the love of it. Why not involve? Why is it presumed that only the government loves things? Why is it not presumed that the citizen at large and corporate sector, mind you, it's not only the corporate sector which can adopt. The Bluebell School in Delhi has adopted a monument and a park. Yeah. NGOs can adopt. So anybody who is interested can adopt. You can adopt a beach. So it's just not the corporate sector.
But that takes me to a very important next question. You know, when we see the list of monuments that have been shortlisted, 33 agencies for about 98 monuments is the information I have. As you said, there are all kinds of private players. There's a school, Bluebell Schools, there's GMR Sports, there are travel agencies, there are tour operators, there are corporations. Some people have said, what is the process that the government will follow in deciding who gets to adopt which company? And it's been suggested in reports that this is like an auction, that the highest bidder gets to adopt our most precious heritage monuments. Can you clarify what is the basis on which you're choosing these players?
I don't know, Barkha, who created this whole story of auction.
Yeah.
Number one, there is no auction. Number two, there is no money transaction at all. Like one of the newspapers said, Dalmia gets Red Fort for 25 crores.
Yeah.
Who gave 25 crores to whom? Where was the bidding? There is no bidding process in this. It's very simple. Okay, you have the Red Fort. There are 5 people who send a letter of interest saying that we would like to adopt it. Now, we send right back to them saying, now you prepare a vision document. We listen to see the vision document of everybody. They make a presentation before the Secretary Culture as well as Secretary Tourism, and there are of course other people sitting in the panel, and they say this looks like the best kind of vision document by which this monument would be preserved best.
So companies have to make presentations,
Exactly.
and then the committee in the ministry will decide which is the best presentation.
Exactly, and mind you, they all hire professionals to do it.
Right.
Now, if Dalmia is doing it, obviously it will be somebody with expertise.
Well, that was going to be my next question. That, you know, comparisons have been drawn with the Aga Khan Foundation's restoration of the Humayun's tomb and the Sundar Nursery. But, you know, writers have said that the Aga Khan Foundation used people with deep expertise and have a long history in doing this work. But what work does a cement company or a tour operator, what is the expertise they have? So,
Barkha, I think that's a huge insult on Indians.
No, this has been raised as a
no,
criticism,
that's what I'm
as
saying.
you know.
That's a huge insult on India
Because?
and Indians. Because Aga Khan Foundation is a foreign agency. It's not an Indian agency.
But doing a lot of good work in India with an Indian chapter.
There are a lot of people. There are a whole lot of people who in Rockefeller Foundation doing a whole lot of foundations in the world are doing fantastic work. But let me tell you, it's a foreign agency. And I have no problem with that. They have the expertise.
And they've done a great job.
They've done a very good job. But mind you, this was done during the Congress regime. Entrusting one of our finest monuments in this country to a foreign agency to do it. And they've done a good job. And then the Prime Minister said, this is a fantastic example of private-public partnership.
Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister.
Yes, then. I think Congress has a very poor memory, as usual. I'm very sorry to very poor memory. During their regime, X number of heritage sites were given off to the private sector. Whole lot of, I have the whole list with you, I have given you the list. This has been going on. Now we are coming into a new frame and said, let's just do it. It's not a question of, do it in, oratory.
Ad hoc way. You're saying let there be a uniform policy.
Exactly. Uniform policy we've laid out, and its ministry today we can say we are delivering things. Now, if you could give to the Aga Khan Foundation, which is a foreign agency, which I have no problem with at all, absolutely. Why can't Indians do it? India has amazing expertise. We have people. Why do you assume that Mr. Dalmia is going to come and knock at the brick out there? They are all, whoever is going to be adopting is going to use expertise.
So you're saying they will have to present a vision document, private players. They would have to hire experts to present this and make this vision document.
Of course, of course.
And therefore then, and it would have to pass muster by a committee in the ministry, and it's not an auction. There is no highest bidder winning this.
There is no bidder, there is no bidding, there is no highest bidding, there is no money involved at all. You decide how much money you want to spend.
Yeah.
And we are looking at who can bring out the best out of this whole thing, the ambience, by which people will come. Indians will come. My primary concern is let the Indians come and see it first. This is my Red Fort. They must get a feeling, wow, I'm proud of this. I want a foreign tourist to come here. That generates huge money for me, generates employment for me. All this is good for the country. And do people want these things to continue to be stinking dirty? Why is it that Spain gets 85 million tourists, France gets 75 million tourists, and mind you, just the Louvre, one building alone, Louvre gets 22 million tourists. Why is it that we have such incredible heritage? And then people don't come. Why is it that? Because they're stinking and they're dirty.
So I agree with you that ASI is cash starved, that it could do with any extra funding that it gets. I would go so far as to say, therefore, why only 5 crores? Let me put it to you differently. I would have the contrarian argument. These are all players with thousands of crores in market capitalization. They can afford to spend much more than 5 crores a year over 5 years, right? Have have we set the threshold too low in terms of money?
No, I think, Barkha, I think it's just, we didn't want the money to be the factor.
But it's a fantastic advertising and branding opportunity for them. Even if it's coming out of CSR, it's giving them promotion, it's giving them a huge brand, these private players. Shouldn't they have to pay more for it?
Well, I think, see, people, it's just not the money part. We didn't look at the money part at all. Of course, they should be willing to spend money of it. I think if they spend the X amount of money, which they are saying they are going to spend now, it should be kind of a place which would be beautiful. I mean, so we are pretty convinced that if we spend X amount of money, that would be sufficient to give it a facelift, give it in sense of having the basic facilities, and that would be sufficient enough. See, we don't want to.
It's 5 crores a flat. Is it a flat amount that will be charged?
No, I think they have said that they're going to spend 5 crores every year.
So it depends on the vision document. You can present how much you're going to spend.
Exactly. Now, if somebody came over and said, we want to spend 25 crores on there, what do you see how are we going to spend 25 crores out there? Because we are not going to allow constructions out there. We are not, of course, except for the toilets and other basic facilities and whatever we have mentioned in our MOU. So it's not the amount of money. We don't want somebody with the highest money to be a bidder for any of our monuments. We want somebody who would love that place, who feels that yes, we're going to create world-class facilities, and ultimately everybody would look at and say, wow, this is a great monument.
Another concern, Mr. Alphonse, has been that, history, even in the present, often becomes a political battlefield. We've seen the BJP and the Congress locked in ferocious battles on the interpretation of history, right? So, people, ordinary citizens who are not politicians, don't want the monuments to become like textbooks, where BJP today and the Dalmia group or X group or Y group has one interpretation of the history of that place, and tomorrow the Congress comes or some other party comes, they enter a partnership with some other group, they have a third interpretation. You know what I'm saying? How do we avoid these private players having any say in established narratives that have defined the history of these heritage monuments?
The narrative is going to be decided by the ASI.
Nobody else.
Not anybody else.
So the private players have zero say. For example, if a museum comes up and you have notes in a museum, you have explainers, that content will be done by who?
Yeah, now here a light and show is one of the advanced facilities which the Monument Mitra can produce.
Yes.
But every comma in that, every word in that would be vetted by the ASI, has to be approved. So everything, the entire content, whatever is going to be out there, is going to be approved by the ASI.
Okay, now William Dalrymple, whom William Dalrymple, whom you know as an author and someone who's lived in India for many decades, he said there's a difference in, let's say, if Dalmia Group had said we want to adopt a Haveli in Old Delhi and the sort of crown jewel of India, the Red Fort. Do you believe that there should be a distinction in the kind of heritage sites that are allowed to be adopted?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, in the sense that you see, the bigger the monument, the bigger the jewel it is. I think we need to make it better. I mean, if you take the world over, I think the crown jewel and jewels around that would get the largest number of footfall, and it is nation's pride to ensure that these crown jewels really have world-class facilities. Forget about world-class, Barkha. Let us at least create the basic amenities and say, well, yeah, this is what India prides itself of, and it now looks fine. Somebody should be able to say, I mean, this is my country. Now, I feel, yes, at least these, which are supposed to be the crown jewel, looks okay. An Indian should be able to say, yes, I'm now kind of proud about my country. But so that is what we
But you
want.
don't think that therefore the Taj Mahal or the Red Fort, for example, you must have seen Mamata Banerjee's tweet, and she said this is the symbol of India's independence. This, was where the War of Independence in 1857, the INA, every Prime Minister gives his or her address on the 15th of August from the ramparts of the Red Fort. So the opposition has suggested that it's like privatizing the symbols of India.
Now, that is politics at its worst. Mamata Banerjee should have tried to find out what her own Member of Parliament, Mr. Derek O'Brien,
who was the chairman of the parliamentary panel,
Parliament committee, said. He said, this is a fantastic idea. You must go ahead, ensure that things are done properly. I mean, this report was submitted only on the 6th of March in 2018.
Yeah.
At least, Mrs. Mamata Banerjee should try to keep tag of what her MPs are doing, what they are writing. I mean, this is where her own MP, Derek O'Brien, a very sensible person.
Yeah, he has tweeted saying that they only said it was a good suggestion, but it was only a discussion stage. It was not finalized.
This is the final report which has been submitted, and the report is there. And so this is in the public domain.
So why do you think that there has been this kind of ferocious backlash from some quarters to this idea?
See, Barkha, it's just pure politics. It's very simple. I mean, because it is done by the BJP, they don't want Mr. Narendra Modi to take the credit for it, because we are going to do things. Take, for example, the tourist inflow this year. We've done fantastically well. We have got a growth of 15.67% of tourist inflow last year. We generated incredible amount of money, 1,80,000 crores. Our domestic tourism is growing fantastically at about 15%. We have done extremely well. They don't want to do it. You know, we have created employment. You know, when this government came to power, about 67% of million people were employed in the tourism sector. Today, we are employing 85 million people in the tourism sector. Now, these are data things which obviously the opposition wouldn't want to believe. They wouldn't want it, because they would like to paint the government, everything that they do is wrong, is dark, is devious, is evil. I mean, when you have a mindset like that, I mean, it's very unfortunate.
I would agree with you that there's certainly an element of politics in it. But, you know, when you say, and I think you've been quite candid as a minister to say these facilities are stinky, you don't feel like using the bathrooms, there's not even a place to get a, you know, decent sandwich or a cup of coffee. All true. But does it not reflect a collective failure of government institutes? Like, frankly, by now, we should have had better management by the ASI or by the relevant ministries. I don't single out any party here. I'm simply saying the fact that we need private money in these spaces or private players to do this, isn't this an admission of failure by successive governments?
See, Barkha, world over, things are happening differently. They don't believe anymore that the government should be doing everything. You are the repository of all the wisdom, you have all the expertise, you have all the commitment. The Colosseum in Rome was restored by a private hotel chain. The Angkor Wat, the entire management is with a private company. You take a whole lot of monuments around the world which are world-class monuments. Most of them are managed, restored by private people. Come on, let's not say no, it's a government which will do it. I mean, today, even now, there are so many people arguing, I mean, in connection with this topic itself, oh my God, this government is selling Air India. They've eaten away 60,000 crores of your money and my money and the money of the starving citizen out there. And still people say, no, Air India is a national pride. National pride where? I mean, get practical, get real.
But I think when the examples you give from the world are all true, but I think what people want is a certain subtlety and a certain aesthetic. And all people are worried about is the kind of crass commercialization, which you're saying again and again that the ASI will be under the supervision of the ASI. But this MOU that you've shared with me does have a clause in it which says that semi-commercial activities will be permitted. This phrase has also engineered a certain degree of fear. Could you explain what these semi-commercial activities are and what they include?
Barkha, it's very clearly laid down. It's, I mean, every word is defined there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing left to be for confusion or to be restructured. They say semi-commercial activity like something like a cafeteria. Yeah. And there also it's very clearly laid down. The rates to be charged in the cafeteria will be fixed by the ASI or whichever is the monument owning agency. Number one, the cafeteria itself would be permitted only with the permission of the land owning or the monument owning agency. If they permit, they can put it up. The rates will be fixed by a committee, by the
So the private player cannot decide this is how much food costs,
No,
this is how much a ticket entry costs, this is how much a museum show costs. Can they decide
that? No,
that?
the ticket entry absolutely is there. It's not none of their business.
It's
the
not.
Ticket entry will be only with the ASI
Okay.
or with whichever is the monument owning agency.
Okay.
Even a cafeteria,
Yeah.
the price will be fixed by the committee. Number two, any profit which comes from that would goes into a separate account and it can be used only at the monument for the work at the monument.
So it has to be channeled back
Exactly.
into the monument. It
Exactly.
cannot be a source of profit making.
Absolutely. I mean, the memo is very, very clear on all these things.
Because there is also a reference to the fact that no charges will be allowed to be set by the company, and if they are, they will be done so under the supervision of the clearance of these various committees. And you're saying those charges pertain to if there's a light and sound show or if there's a certain food at the cafeteria. How will you ensure that with the advent of private players, these spaces remain egalitarian, democratic and affordable for all Indians?
No, see, it's very simple. I mean, it's everything will be done under the supervision of the site committee, which will be headed by a director level officer. And then you have another committee. Then you have, of course, the vision committee. They are going to supervise. And when the ASI is, let's call it a very fussy organization. It's an organization which doesn't allow one grain of sand from their monument to be touched by anybody else. They are extremely cautious. I mean, let me call it a very, very conservative organization.
Yes.
Therefore, they're not going to allow any nonsense at all. I mean, forget about being liberal. And therefore, whatever is going to be allowed there, which again is a huge question, are you going to allow a cafeteria? There, things are going to be so much controlled, so much.
So, in the end, you believe there's no turning back from this now? Because you've seen some amount of furor over it. Is the government at all reconsidering, or is this a path you've taken and you're going to persist with?
Barkha, this is a great thing that the government is doing. I mean, it shows tremendous leadership of the Prime Minister to be doing this kind of things. We are going ahead with this. We will do it, and every Indian will be proud in a couple of years that, yes, this has been a great move in the history of the country.
And I would say that some of these details that were not known previously, when I'm hearing now, I think they do allay a number of the fears that ordinary people, I'm not talking about politicians, have. And hopefully this does, in a sense, lift the quality of facilities around many of our most beauteous sites, KGL Fonds.
But Ajay, I mean, Barkha, I wish that before they wrote a story,
they would check.
They would check with me or my department, because we are so open. My mobile number is available with everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, I take every call. Why don't I check and do a... I would have given this document to anybody, any day.
I think that's a fair question. Many of these facts were easily verified before they were reported. Thank you so much, Minister, for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.